Every major power claims its currency is invincible. Governments always insist their guarantees are eternal. Yet, time and again, history exposes the lie. From ancient Rome to revolutionary France, from the American South to modern-day Lebanon, citizens have woken up to discover their savings evaporated, their wages valueless, and their futures robbed by the very systems they trusted. Here isn't an exception, it is the norm. The real issue isn't if the financial machine will break, it's how you shield yourself when the inevitable happens. Believing that the status quo lasts forever is the deadliest financial trap. We stare at our bank accounts and national flags, assuming they are solid foundations. But money isn't stone, it is faith, and faith can disappear in a single night. This makes history both cruel and incredibly valuable. Every crash leaves a roadmap of clues. If you look closely, you'll realize the survivors weren't the optimists who believed the system. They were the skeptics who doubted it early. Consider the Byzantine Empire, known as the Eastern remnant of Rome, that managed to outlive the West by a millennium. Its economy relied on the gold solidus, a currency so trusted that traders from Europe to Asia accepted it blindly. But here is the irony. We would assume they learned from Rome's earlier catastrophe. But no. Centuries later, the Byzantines repeated the exact same error, this time with gold. They started reducing its purity, spreading the gold thin, and blending in base metals. Initially, it went undetected. Then, confidence shattered. The currency that once anchored global trade became nothing more than a political lie. Currency manipulation ruined its reputation, and consequently the Byzantine economy lost its legendary stability. What endured? Certainly not government pledges or royal decrees. Those who quietly accumulated physical gold or land beyond the empire's reach kept their wealth, while everyone else watched their savings vanish. Here is the first eternal rule. Rulers cannot resist devaluing their currency, and when they do, true value escapes to assets that cannot be faked. However, not all crashes are caused by currency manipulation. Sometimes disaster strikes from the unexpected. In the mid-13th century, Europe faced its deadliest pandemic ever, the Black Death. From 1347 to 1351, nearly half the population perished. Cities became ghost towns, villages disappeared, and commerce halted. Yet, the economic impact of the plague was more than just tragedy. When half the workforce vanishes, workers become a scarce commodity. Survivors could suddenly command higher pay. Resources like food and land, once rare, became plentiful relative to the population. Those with liquid assets, silver, merchandise, or simply the capacity to work, gained leverage they never imagined possible. Prime real estate could be purchased for pennies. If this rings a bell, it's because we witnessed a modern parallel during the COVID pandemic. In the US, real estate skyrocketed and stocks bounced back immediately, even as millions struggled just to pay rent. The pattern is undeniable. Pandemics shuffle wealth. They always have. It's a harsh truth. Crises favor the prepared and destroy the unprepared. While pandemics reveal how quickly economies flip, the banking crash of Renaissance Florence teaches a critical lesson. Institutions that seem too big to fail can topple instantly. In the 1340s, Florence was the financial hub of Europe. These banks lent massive sums to monarchs, specifically King Edward III of England. When the king stopped paying, the banks crumbled. Savers lost everything. Ordinary people who trusted the massive banking dynasties learned that size doesn't guarantee safety. The lesson? Too big to fail is a myth as ancient as money itself. Banks exist for profit, not your security. When they go down, they drag your savings with them. History books focus on the battles of the American Civil War, but they miss the financial slaughter happening behind the scenes. Both North and South realized that total war required the printing press. The North issued greenbacks, paper money backed not by gold. Initially, it seemed patriotic, but as more notes flooded the system, their purchasing power collapsed. Inflation ate away the value. In the South, it was catastrophic. By war's end, Southern inflation was astronomical. People needed wheelbarrows of cash just to buy bread. By 1865, the currency wasn't just weak, it was non-existent. In that chaos, paper promises meant nothing. Only hard assets, land, food, gold, retained value. Americans rarely hear this, but must never forget. Your nation has already survived a total currency collapse. France offers an even bloodier lesson on how revolutions destroy currency. In the 1790s, revolutionaries issued a new paper money, the Assignats, supposedly backed by seized land. Instead, they printed them recklessly. Prices skyrocketed, wages lagged, and the currency soon became trash. Farmers stopped selling food for paper. Bread riots returned to Paris, and the revolution began to consume itself. The winners weren't those holding patriotic paper money. They were those holding food, gold, or land. Jump ahead 200 years to 1997. A speculative attack on Thailand's currency spiraled into a massive regional crisis. Investors panicked. Currencies across Indonesia, Malaysia, and South Korea collapsed. The victims weren't the global hedge funds. It was regular people. The lesson from Byzantium to Argentina is clear. Borrowing in a currency you don't control is suicide. The most terrifying reality is that this isn't just history. It is happening right now. In Lebanon, 2019 to 2021, banks did the unthinkable. They locked their doors. The currency lost 90% of its value. People begged outside banks for their own money, only to be turned away. The lesson is brutal. Your bank account is not a vault. It is an unsecured loan to an institution that can choose not to pay you back. So, how do you shield yourself when the world breaks? History offers no single magic bullet. In Byzantium, it was gold. The details change, but the core truth remains. Survival requires holding real value when the illusion fades. Here is the wake-up call. Collapse is a tragedy, but also an opportunity. Protection isn't just defense. It's positioning yourself to acquire what others are forced to lose. But wealth isn't just assets, it's capability. Survivors weren't just hoarders, they were creators of value. The baker, the craftsman. In crisis, currency dies, but the need for production never does. So don't ask if things will fall apart. They always do. Ask yourself, will you be left holding empty promises or holding something real? If this opened your eyes, subscribe now. History holds the answers, and I'll show you where to find them.